haven't heard yet, peptides work. And it's taken me a while to really believe this, but I know it to be true now. I've witnessed so many people's lives being changed and shifted by peptides. There's 15 years of research, that I've spoken to experts that show that peptides work. But most importantly, I'm an experiential psychiatrist. And so I tried the peptides personally for myself. And I'm not talking about research peptides from China. I'm talking about real, straight made in USA from a compounding shop pharmacy, pure peptides, which are short chain amino acids. They're like little light signals in the body. And when you inject them orally or you take them through an insulin needle, it literally turns on certain pathways in your body to produce more energy, all different types of things. You can lose weight with it. You can build muscle with it. You can anti-age with it. You can grow hair with it. There's so many different pathways that peptides can turn on in the body. So I am officially a firm believer, and that's why we started limitlesslivingmd.com, which sponsors this podcast episode. And so peptides, literally, no matter what you're trying to do in your life, health is your greatest wealth. And there's a reason why the FDA tried to ban peptides, and the reason why RFK said the first thing he's going to do when he gets into office is legalize peptides, because they work. They can help with all different types of health conditions. And we have at limitlesslivingmd.com created a company. We want to make these affordable for everyone. Pure pharmaceutical peptides delivered straight. You can order it straight from your home. And if you don't know where to begin, we're offering a special free 15-minute consult with a peptide coaching expert who can literally get you on the right peptide, but most importantly, the right dosing. That's really important. There's a lot of people right now being overdosed on certain peptides. So the right peptide, the right dose, ordered from your home, delivered straight to your home within 3 to 5 days with everything you need to get started on the peptides. A lot of these other companies aren't giving you everything you need, and there's clear educational material on how to get started. So if this is you, you're curious about peptides, you feel called to experiment with peptides and get into your best physical health shape, there's a QR code that I've been talking on. Click that QR code, or in the links below, click that QR code for a free 15-minute consult with a healthcare peptide expert who can help you figure out which peptide is best for you, what dose to get started on, and within 3 to 5 days, if that's the route you decide to go, it can be delivered straight to your house. So I'm really excited about the magic of peptides and helping people with peptides, because it's been helping me, and I know that it can help you. So check it out, limitlesslivingmd.com. Use the code Dr. Lee, DRLEE, for 15% off. New global paradigm of mental health. Let's go. All right, what's up, beautiful souls? Welcome to another episode of the Spiritual Psychiatrist Podcast. Today we have two very special guests, two divine feminine goddesses. Divine feminine, rise up now. It's time to sit on your throne now. Been stealing your light far too long now. Pachamama crying out now. Divine feminine goddess, rise up. It's your time to shine. And she called us Isis, pure gold and priceless. Divine feminine, rise up. So we got Melissa Tittle in the house today, creator of Code 12. If you haven't watched that movie, go watch that movie. She's got bringing in amazing codes for humanity through film. And she helped Dr. Joe create Source Code. So go watch those movies, and I'm blessed to have her on the show today. Again, we got High Priestess Maya Rose Rogers bringing in the codes. She's a High Priestess sister of mine, and we were recently on a trip to Egypt together. And it was a magical trip, once in a lifetime trip. And so we wanted to recap the trip and just give the divine feminine goddesses a voice to bring forth their truth. And then also to let you guys know there's an opportunity to join the next one. And I highly, highly, highly recommend, if you get a chance to go to Egypt, doing so with Melissa and Maya and the crew out there. Like, it was beautifully set up, from sacred hospitality to private temple visits to, what really resonated with me is like the base 12 eternal life. kind of wisdoms that Code 12 brings into all of it, which really resonated with me. And I've had so many opportunities, so many invitations to go to Egypt, and I've always said no because it didn't feel right. But like for me, this one was the one, and I have absolutely no regrets. And I highly recommend, if you're thinking about going to Egypt, to do so with these beautiful goddesses. With that being said, I know Maya, why don't we start with you? You've had a lot of opportunities to go to Egypt, and this was the one for you as well. Yeah, what's coming through for you? Why did you decide to go with Melissa on this one? And how was your process of, putting this together and helping Melissa put this together and selecting this Egypt trip?
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm so glad to be here. And it was such an honor to have you on the trip. It was so fun to get to have those sacred experiences together. And I feel like there's a bond when you travel with somebody and you have an experience together and you're in the king's chamber of the Great Pyramid on a full moon in a private, like doing the things. So, anyways, so fun. And yeah, like you said, I've had so many different opportunities. I've been invited to go on a lot of trips before and they just didn't resonate. And when Melissa came into my life and my field and I watched Code 12, I'm like, whoa, this woman carries codes. And not only that, she has this like wealth of information. But through watching the movie, I realized what Hathor Studios is about, what Melissa is about transformation and not just information. So transformation is what happens when you have the information, but you get to have the experiences there. And actually, I hope she feels called to share this, but it was her experience that she had during one of her trips to Egypt, that she just had this whole experience. I'll let Melissa share it, but she had a whole experience which led her to actually create Hathor Studios. And it was hearing that experience that solidified it for me. I'm like, if there's any way possible, I've got to go to Egypt. I want to go with Melissa. So I don't know, Melissa, do you feel called to share that experience? Because I'd love for you just to share that with anybody that's listening as well.
Share that experience. First of all, Sam, thank you so much for having us on this call and, you know, setting up this trip and working with Maya Rose to bring the right people on the trip was is an experience that I didn't know that I would have. And I want to set that up by saying that I produce a lot of movies. I've worked on a lot of production sets, so I know how to set things up. I also been to Egypt a lot, and I wanted to do it really first class. I really wanted to like give people the experience of the things that I've had when I've been there, and I've had temples alone. I've had time to be in the spaces of these places and feel the energy. It wasn't just a tour where we just walk through stuff and you talk about things. So I really wanted to do that, but I have to say that the people that came on the trip and the experience that happened within the structure that I was creating for people to come was so epic. Like it was next level. You think as like, okay, well, I've been here and I'm going to take people to places, but the most joy that I've had is watching people be in a place that has the most amazing energy and see it come over their faces and they can feel it. Wow. I have never felt so much joy in my entire life. Because I could see it happening, like, oh, wow, I feel whatever that is coming out of the rocks. And I think if you've not been to Egypt and you're thinking like it's going to happen in one of these amazing places with like the pictures everybody's posting all the time, it's always in a place where the energy is flowing and nobody has marked it. It's that place that like you feel it and it's so cool. And that was so much joy for me. Like wow. Sorry, I just had to share that.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And like that really, really resonates because the end path of all spiritual paths is service. And I'm a firm believer, like every step everybody takes is preparing them for their service contract to humanity. And obviously, Melissa, you have a beautiful, powerful service project to humanity is to bring these eternal life codes, which was what attracted Maya Rose to humanity. And you prepared for this, like you put in your work, like in Hollywood, and then Ancient Aliens, and then trips to Egypt with Graham Hancock, a lot of different trips. And then what was so beautiful about this was the way I mean, I really mean it when you say sacred hospitality, the energy and the planning that you guys put in to every single step from the moment we arrive, where the only thing we had to worry about was nothing. Just going to the temples, integrating, everything was provided for. first class accommodations, amazing food, amazing staff, the cruise up the Nile on the boat, just, even to the guides. But not to mention like little things that like really do make a difference, like the experience with Jamal and like the best, oils in all of Egypt, that whole experience with the spiritual master, all of your contacts that you had developed, the biogeometry class, um, early private sunrise tours of certain temples that we could get access to. And those little things really made a big difference. But I love how you, said there's no greater joy than watching as it was like our higher selves communicated together to bring together the right group. And the right group had a frequency, which every temple we went to, the walls were coming alive. Everyone was getting what they needed, temple technology, and we were the living temple, and our group formed the living technology. And I'm sure that with you goddesses at the helm, this is just going to go to the next level. And it was, not only were we receiving from the trip, we were also infusing the temples with our group encryption, which some of that was eternal life technology, and which was one of the the key things that attracted me to this particular group is because you had created a film called Code 12, which is for me the eternal life code, which you were having reoccurring dreams of since you were like 12 concentric circles. Mel, can you take us a little bit into Code 12 and why this might be a unique trip for certain people who are on the eternal life path?
Yeah, so in my film, if you haven't watched Code 12, I explained my impetus for going on this journey to even get into the 12 as being significant. And that is having this reoccurring dream since I was 10 years old for, I don't know, about 12, 13, 14 years. And it was bringing me to a spot in the desert with a staff and hitting the ground. And when I hit the ground, all these concentric golden circles would appear, and then 12 points of light would it ignite, and then it would dream was over. And to be honest with you, I never it just kept happening. It wasn't a nightmare, it just was like super weird. And then I started working on ancient aliens in my 20s, and all of a sudden all the symbols that were just like my dream, I was like picking up in every book and every culture, and I'm like, what is going on? Like, what is this thing that I keep seeing? And so it took me, I would say, 10 plus years of research to actually come up with Code 12, to really piece together all these different facets of scientific study and research and esoteric understanding to really get to, wow, something has been trying to tell us something for a long time about our connection to a universal principle that we are disconnected from. And that was what Code 12 was really about. And for me personally, not only is that prevalent in ancient Egypt, but it's prevalent everywhere. So it just became sort of kind of a life mission to decode the, not necessarily the matrix, although that comes up, right? Like, what are we living in versus what do we have the potential to? But the idea that whatever it is that we have the potential to runs on a different understanding that we lost a long time ago. And that's really been my mission, is to bring that back into our understanding so that we can kind of stop the searching and understand our principle and our goal here as humans on this planet at this moment in time.
Yeah, beautiful. And like, that's like Moses shit. Strike the staff, 12 concentric circles, golden. And, for me, it's the, eternal life code base 12, 12 stranded DNA, 12 concentric circles, 12 spheres, 12 dimensions, 12, when one soul comes in, it splits into 12. And I mean, it's, like I did feel like all of the lifetimes and things you prepared for, like these tours are starting right now for a reason, because this message is now viable, and it seems like more and more people are slowly starting to come into awareness of the Code 12, and your movie's spreading a lot of awareness around that. So yeah, that's why I highly recommend this tour, because it's, Melissa has prepared for this and she's been having dreams about this, and it's very like, these walls are multidimensional. So if you go in there with like a base 8 frequency, that's fine, that's amazing, you're going to get met exactly where you're at. But if you go in there with a group that is carrying eternal life, Code 12 technologies and frequencies, the walls are also coded to that. So it's going to meet you where you're at. And so that's why I really appreciated going with this group. And I know that the journey is just going to get more and more
Crazy.
crazy. Yeah, that's probably the right word. Crazy. Yeah.
Favorite line
Yeah,
from
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I, you said to me one morning, I don't know, I think we must have been like
Yeah,
8 days in, 7 or 8 days in, and
yeah,
you were like, Mel, I feel like I'm on an ayahuasca journey every day.
yeah, 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 yeah. No, I swear, like, and I wasn't even exaggerating. Like every single temple, Philae, temple, Karnak, and I love the way that you set it up, by the way, by flying in. And some people start at the Great Pyramid, but no, but we flew down south. And according to Anna, grandmother of Jesus in the book, it was specifically the temples were created. The Nile flows from south north, and each temple was like a chakra activation, which builds up into the Great Pyramid. So that's what we did, and not to mention our boat was awesome. But we went to like every single temple, and every single temple was like a ceremony. And that's why I was so grateful to have all of the logistics provided for, amazing accommodations. Literally, they would feed us like every 2 hours, but you didn't have to worry about anything except for going to the temple, sleeping, getting the activation, integrating the activation, and every single step was thought about. And that was really nice. And with that, I wanted to Maya, was there what really happened in the invisible world? There was so much that was happening for each and every individual, but for you, I know, and I loved having Maya on the trip. Not only is she a high priestess, but um, every time I look at you, you're just like, always lighthearted, having fun, like joking around, like your little kid was very active the whole trip. And for me, like I was like ayahuasca trip every day, so it was nice to just have your medicine around to keep things lighthearted. Yeah, and we went to so many temples, Philae, Temple of Isis, Karnak, King's Chamber, so many other things. What activations or initiations in the invisible world do you remember that you might want to share
I
with
love
the
that. Thank
people?
you so much for asking that question. And some things that were super present to me, like you said, we started down in Abu Simbel. And the way Melissa described it is this is the place of origin. And I didn't realize that origin had a feeling until I was there. I felt the feeling of origin. And what I so appreciated about that is that origin is the beginning point of all creation. And to be able to experience what that felt like in my body and to be able to implement that in the work that I do is like, okay, how can I come back to that feeling of origin? And the temples there were beautiful, but like we're talking about, when you're vibrating at this higher frequency, when you're resonating in a higher field or plane of consciousness, there's so much more than just what you see. The other things that really struck me is that the stones carried information. And I still want, Melissa, for you to share your experience, because I think this is really profound. And her experience has to do with that. But it was like going to Philae, and we had a private in this temple of Philae, which is Isis's temple. So we're getting up at 4:30 in the morning. We're going on this boat. It's dark because Philae is on an island. All of a sudden, you see this outline of this temple of Isis. And walking in the dark, we went straight into the inner chamber where there's this red granite altar. And the second I put my hands on the stone, there was suddenly transmitted to me eons of time of remembrances, past lives of being there, past feelings of who I was, who I am now, what I am creating. And there's no way I could take days to explain all that came through just from that initial touch of the altar and being there in the group, being able to using sound frequency or resonance in some of these chambers just amplified and magnified. And specifically, I want to presence something that happened at Philae. When I was there at the altar, immediately the words that came through, as if from Isis herself, was, "Thank you for helping to bring this group of people here at this time, because this is exactly who needed to be there to experience and to activate." And what it taught me was, when we have these sacred callings to go to these sacred places, when we feel the call, we feel the pull, and we answer it, we are fulfilling prophecies from eons of time. We are fulfilling our timeline and our mission on this earth when we answer those calls. And when we go with the group, it's just the right resonance of people. And so part of my intention in just helping to curate the group was feeling into the resonance, not only of each individual, but the group collectively that was going to be there. And I didn't even really understand the impact of that until being at that temple. And there's so much I could share about my individual stories and journeys and activations, but I want to stop there because I'm gonna keep saying it till you share the story. Melissa, I really want you to share your story because this is such a beautiful illustration. And I know, Sam, that you're gonna agree because you've heard this story that this is like what is possible when you go to these places and you touch these stones and you're in the resonance and you're in the frequency and you're answering the calling. So, okay, ready, Melissa?
Okay, fine. Fine.
Tell the story, Melissa.
Now, one thing you'll learn about me if you do end up going on a trip is that I love talking about this stuff. I still have a hard time talking about myself. So here's my transition about talking about myself. So I was on 4 or 5 years ago, I was on a trip with Graham Hancock to Egypt, and we were on a film scout. Remember, I've been to Egypt many times, but this one specifically was to film a show, and we were doing a scout. So a scout, for those of you that are not in the entertainment industry, means that we go through the run through of the whole show or the whole film, the whole TV show first. So we go to every temple. What is he going to say? Where is he going to go? How's it going to, how many minutes do I have to rent this temple out? It's July in Egypt, which is like 120 degrees minimum. It's astronomically hot. No one's there. So I'm in the temple of Dendera, Hathor's temple. And I'm with Graham Hancock and his wife and an Egyptologist. And I just told them, I'm like, hey, I just kind of want to walk around alone. And they said, fine. You know, we already did our work. So they're just standing outside talking outside the temple. And so I go in, and there's a huge hall in the beginning when you walk through. And then there's like a second chamber. And then you reach the Holy of Holies. Around the Holy of Holies is 13 rooms. And so one of those rooms I just meandered into. Remember, there's no artifacts, there's no statues, there's nothing. I can't read hieroglyphs, so I don't know what's on the wall, but I just meander into one of those rooms. I go into the rooms. I feel called to put my hands on a certain wall, and then I decide to put my forehead between my hands. And it was super crazy because what happened was I felt every single emotion that could possibly exist in the universe come through my body. It was so intense. It was like love and joy and hate and jealousy and greed and love. And, you know, it was just like, it was insane. And then there was like all these colors. And then I thought this was like 5 minutes. So I took my hands off the wall, and I'm like this with my hands and my forehead, like, oh my, like what just happened? And the Egyptologist comes running around. He's like, where have you been? and I was like, well, I was just, you know, walking around, and I was in this room, and, you know, I'm still like this. And he's like, you've been gone for 2 hours. You disappeared for 2 hours. I mean, Dendera is big, but not that big. Nobody gets lost that long. They thought I got kidnapped or something. They were really pissed. And I was like, okay. And he's like, do you know what that says? And I said, no. He said, receive the goddess here. It was exactly where I had placed my hands. It was exactly where I put my forehead. And yeah, they were really mad at me, but I don't know where I went. But what I can tell you is that for 2 weeks after that, very intensely, I had dreams of all the hieroglyphs coming out of the wall, and they returned to all these calculations. And at that moment, I still don't know what those calculations mean. I have no idea what really happened. I had missing time. I didn't see any aliens, I swear to God. I knew at that moment that whatever that energy was that was showing me something that I didn't understand was the energy and the frequency that I wanted my company to be as far as a studio. I wanted to bring that energy and frequency to people. And as somebody who understands enough to trust the things that I don't understand, that is why I created Hathor Studios. It's not because I want to be Hathor or I think I am Hathor. It's more that whatever that energy that is reserved in those walls of information and wisdom, whatever that was that came through me, needs to come through everyone to understand how the universe actually works. And what I really truly believe is that if we really understand how the universe works, our understanding of our current civilization as a human species will dramatically change. It's just information. We are missing a gap in our understanding. And once we understand that, we'll be able to change drastically the things that we call suffering right now. That is my total belief system on that, from that experience.
What's up, beautiful souls? the rapid 12-strand DNA activation. Activate your inner Christos, activate your 12-stranded DNA. All of the techniques have been split up into bite-sized chunks with homework reading assignments to help you understand the eternal life wisdom. And we've literally put this online in the Eternal Life Tribe community on School. So you're not only going to get the rapid 12-strand DNA program, and we're having people have massive shifts through this program, literally aligning you to your highest timeline, eventually aligning you to your highest spiritual destiny. And it's all online in the Eternal Life Tribe community on School. We just won the School games, which means for category self-improvement, we've been, how can I say, we won the month. We had the most signups. And then not only that, our churn rate, people signing, like stopping the program and leaving, is super low compared to the normal average. So there's something that's happening on the tribe in the School program that is working, that is shifting lives. Not only that though, you're going to get bi-weekly live Q&As with me, which means that sometimes the eternal life wisdom, it's a lot of wisdom. It blows away your paradigms. You have questions. I'm going to be there 2 times a month to answer all of your questions, to make sure that you have the accurate information to begin remembering your 12-stranded DNA, your avatar Christos self. We also have free guided meditations. And one of the most exciting things is once every month or 2, we do powerful online breathwork sessions at home, and people are shifting, people are remembering. And once you remember and you shift yourself, then you start activating for Mother Earth. And that's starting to happen. We're starting to heal Mother Earth. So check it out. Everything that I've ever learned is 10 plus years working as a psychiatrist, all my favorite supplements, everything is on there. Literally the School online community, Eternal Life Tribe. Click the link below, or we'll also send you a QR code to the School community. And if that's on the screen right now, you can click the QR code, check it out. Eternal Life Tribe, School community. And I hope to see you on the Eternal Life Tribe.
Yeah, beautiful. And that I think like that's beautiful to understand, like, as the walls mirror our temple technology, as above the stars, the Egyptians, when they built it, or whoever built it, right? Well, built it as a mirror of the stars. And then so as below, so above, as within, so without, right? And like literally it's mirroring and activating exactly what we need. And I can honestly say, like, every single person on that trip literally received through that journey everything they were ready to receive, plus a bag of Sun Chips gluten-free. So like, and then you're gonna, and like people don't understand, like when you go to, like, because you hear about Egypt trips and you hear about Maya Rose putting her hand on the wall and getting like downloads of like transcripts of eons of memory. You hear about Melissa feeling every single, where 5 minutes morphs into 2 hours. And these walls are literally specially encoded with multi-dimensional record books and frequencies and crystalline, and it will meet you where you at. And every single temple, I know people think it's crazy when people say, oh, I went into the temple of Isis and Isis spoke to me. I know, like, yeah, if you never experienced it, I'm sure it sounds weird and crazy, like walls. But this is what Jesus meant. If the people don't cry out, the stones will cry out. And you're literally led and guided, and there's no accident why the walls told, or the temple keepers, there's temple spirits that keep the temples, told, High Priestess Maya. And it's all happening simultaneously. We're in our past lives there on a different angular rotation, particle spin, particle pulsation rhythm. Sometimes we left codes for ourselves there. And so it's a really mystical, beautiful, powerful, sometimes, dark and light, activation, remembrance of, frequencies. And so every temple is a technology, and it's mirroring what's on our inside. And if we're ready, it will meet us where we're at.
Can I share one more
Yeah,
experience that goes right
sure.
into what you're talking about? It was an experience at Karnak, which is a big temple that was built over 2,000 years. It's giant, it's huge. And part of that houses this statue of Sekhmet. And again, we had an opportunity just for our group to go to that temple of Sekhmet. And I loved it because what we got to experience there is Melissa had arranged for each of us to go and stand in front of this giant granite statue of Sekhmet, who has this lioness head. And it's one of the only granite statues that's in its original place, in its original form, that wasn't taken or moved or whatever. And so going into this, I really didn't have an expectation or relationship with Sekhmet, but We were prompted, because she is the goddess of protection and aid, to think of something that we wanted help with or something that we might want protection from. And I remember going there and just trying to be open. And I think one of the really important things about transformation is listening and being able to just really be in the moment in these temples. And prior to this experience I'd had going to Egypt, I'd had some experiences with the Ankh. And the Ankh is a sacred symbol. And through these experiences, one of the things I couldn't wear it because I'd gotten this sore on my chest every time I tried to wear this Ankh. And as I sat with it, I realized one of my divine purposes or missions here is a reclaimer of sacred symbols. And I knew going into Egypt that there was something around the Ankh, not even knowing what it meant, that wanted to be returned into the right way. And so I brought, since I couldn't wear it, I brought this little Ankh in this pouch and had carried it around Egypt with me, and I had it with me. And as we were there in the courtyard as a group, and one by one, we got to go and have our couple of moments in Sekhmet. I was the third or fourth to go, and I walked into the first room, which was dark, and then the side room where Sekhmet's statue was. And walking in there, it's a small room, but there was a skylight shining right on her face. And the statue's about, 7 feet tall. It's on a platform. And immediately I felt this presence, and I knew the question that I needed to ask was, can you help return this Ankh into its right relationship? And I asked that, and tears just started streaming down my face. Immediately I felt like that was true. And I walked out into the courtyard and was kind of in the corner taking a moment because I was overcome with this emotion. And I looked up in that moment and saw this symbol of the Ankh with 2 mot feathers on either side. And mot means right alignment or return to truth. And I knew that had been fulfilled. And it was this moment of knowing that this is something that for some reason I had agreed to do and to be here at this time to do. And many people had such amazing and sacred experiences with that statue. And then afterwards I could wear the Ankh again without getting the sore on my chest, which I'm wearing one right now. But it was just such a beautiful example of, if we're just willing, to be in the present moment, if we're willing to listen to the temples, if we can be in spaces where we aren't with 100 or 1,000 other people and just have these moments or these experiences, it's changing things. Like the frequency of the world, like we bring our mission, our calling, or whatever you want to call it, to that time in that space as carriers of, in my belief system, these contracts that we've had to do that at that time. So I just wanted to share that experience because I think it illustrates your point perfectly. And also just, again, the sacredness of the groups that we're in, but also the experiences. And if anybody's going to go to Egypt, whether they come on the Hathor tour or go on a different tour, like, make sure you're getting private experiences in these temples. And of course, I think Hathor Tour is the best. Obviously, that's the one why I chose Melissa. But like, it's so important. It's the moments that we got to experience as a private group in Isis's temple or with Sekhmet or in the Great Pyramid that had the most meaning to me, because I was able to be in my own experience and really listening to what was wanting to come through.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, shout out Mel for arranging that. We all had like a moment when Sekhmet, I don't know Sekhmet very well either, but like everybody had a private moment in front of this. It's a statue, and like I'm telling you, I know it sounds weird if you haven't ever been, but like there's a transmission that occurs, an energetic transmission with Maya just rose, and people will receive, like for example, we had a beautiful brother who literally received a new lion heart. And this is like the most non-woo-woo person in the entire trip, like grounded, brother. And he's like, yo, I got a new lion heart. Sekhmet gave me a new lion heart. And, he's not making this up. It's an energetic transmission that occurs. And I know Mel went like super out of her way. Melissa went out of her way to help us arrange that we can have as much privacy and private time with the walls, with the statues, with the technology as possible. And there are real transmissions that occur, and it's divine, and it's past life, simultaneous time. It's all these things. And I know it sounds woo woo for some of you, but like, listen, it's real. It's energy, and energy doesn't lie. So Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Maya. And there were so many
Share
other
one more, I
things
want
that
to share
happened.
one more thing about that. I know
Yeah.
I keep interrupting you, but this is really, really cool
Mhm.
too. Is like when we got together as the group afterwards and we were surrounding the statue, my hand was on her arm and I could almost feel her saying to me like, I want Dr. Sam right here. So I remember looking in the group and like pointing at you and I'm like, come here. And you're like, what, me?
Yeah, I
But when you
remember
came
that.
over and put your hand on
Yeah.
her, like it was in my hand was on your back, I could feel some kind of frequency just reverberating through. It was like the connection of your energy actually touching the energy of that statue. So I'll be quiet now, but that was one of my favorite moments.
Yeah, and I remember that. You're like, yo, come here. And I'm like, okay. And like, yeah, she called me. And like literally I had a moment with her. And like there's literally a transmission. I'm very aware of what happened, like why she called me and all those different things. And this is real. Like we're not only like giving codes, we're receiving codes, we're sharing codes, and it happens group individually with the walls, with the statues, like you know what I mean? And so all of that was happening. And it was like I can honestly say the group trip that we took, not only did we receive, like we left Egypt better than Egypt was when before we came, and you know we activated some really beautiful things in those temple walls. What about you, Melissa? Like anything coming through from this particular trip that you want to share with the group? I know yours was like you were leading the group, so you were in that role, which you know. But anything else from the trip that you feel like you want to share with the listeners?
Yeah, I mean, it was the first time I had this unique perspective, which was very cool. But I want to point something out with Sekhmet. So Sekhmet is in a covered temple, meaning there's a roof. She's in the dark. There's like a slit of light from the crack in the roof that comes down. It's literally lit for like a movie. Like this is how I would light Sekhmet for a movie. Meaning, meaning this statue of black granite is
Yeah.
completely covered. There's no light that reaches her except for the stream of light that hits the ground, and then it bounces off, and you can see her a little bit. It's really dramatic. But she is boiling hot. Like you touch her, and she's boiling hot, and you're like, "Whoa, what is that?" And I have to say that a lot of people in the group felt that heat come through their body as they like touched her arm, and it came through their body, and they could feel it mostly in their heart. And I personally have felt that many times. So it was almost like throughout the whole trip, throughout all the things that we did for like 11, 12 days and like 18 locations and all different spots. And like, I just was like, I felt confirmed that the experience that I had had all those times was real because I could see it in every single one of you. And that was really cool. That was just beyond. I felt so connected to my fellow humans at that moment, knowing that it's not just for one person. We all have something that we forgot, you know? And for some reason, Egypt is a massive distortion field. And so what it does is when you're there and you're open, you hear all and you feel all the different versions of you come back. And some of them you've never thought of before, some of them you've been waiting for an answer. And it's so amazing to see that integration because if you like Dr. Sam, like you were saying, if you're really splitting all those pieces into feel pieces of you come back, it's the best feeling in the entire world. You know, what do they say in self-healing? You know, spend time alone and, you know, work on your heart and be alone and, you know, love yourself. But being able to feel different versions of yourself come back to your heart is so cool. So I don't know. That was the coolest thing I have to say. And some of the other places that we went besides the Giza Plateau was Luxor, Esna, where a lot of people don't go, but that's the creation god. Where I took you guys on a little journey to the bathroom to show you some code 12 symbols. And we went to Kamumbo, which is overlooked, I think, which was a really cool time. Do you guys remember Kamumbo?
Yeah.
The crocodile god, the
Mhm.
temple of conquering your fears, I thought was really interesting. You
Mhm.
kind of have a feared god. One of the things that I think is really interesting about Egyptians is that they embrace negativity as much as they do positivity. They're like, well, we fear that, so we're going to make that into a god. so that we can accept it into the zeitgeist of our universe. And so Kamumbo really represents that with, the crocodile god and Horus being life and the crocodile god being death. And together they have a temple celebrating life, which is really interesting. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and like the crazy thing is like you say that, but like literally when I went into that temple, literally I could feel my shadow. I could literally feel my fears. And I was like, okay, embrace it, right? Like, and I know you describe it like this, but it's true. Like, and so every temple had an energy and and yeah, it's just, I don't know how to say it. Energy doesn't lie. Like, yeah, when I went to that temple you just talked about with the reptilians and the crocodiles and facing your fears, that's literally what happened to me. And that's why I keep saying, like, every single day was like an ayahuasca ceremony for me. And it was all building up, there were so many amazing, beautiful things that happened. Like, like the people who were on the trip, it was not an accident. Someone would have a dream the night before and they would see what was going to happen. We'd be in the room, literally, it would be happening right there. And it was just like, and then like for me personally, like I didn't want to get into it, but like, yeah, like it was a completion of like lifetimes on lifetimes on lifetimes of a life cycle, which, just the way it was set up, I was just super grateful for everything that happened that built up to that for me. Um, yeah, beautiful. I was wondering, like, if Mel, you want to go into a little bit, just like in generally speaking, like ancient symbolism, symbols. I know for me, I always say the language of the DNA is symbols. And so if you want to talk a little bit about that, and I know Maya, you're really big on like divine feminine channeling, frequencies for divine feminine. So if you guys can just maybe play off that a little bit and channeling divine feminine frequencies and ancient symbolism.
Symbolism, I think why Egypt is so powerful is that the symbols on the walls are codes. So they're not just a language that's forgotten. They're actually codes that have energetic purposes. We don't understand those because we don't understand this language of nature. And that is what all these symbols represent, are points in understanding of nature. And then they create sentences of like, X plus Y equals Z type of thing in nature, like how energies work, right? Which is what I'm talking about, how we just don't understand how the universe works. So, but symbols are feminine and they're specific because one of the things that I had everybody go to is a lecture with Dr. Kareem, who's the biogeometry guy, Ibrahim Kareem, who runs a biogeometry clinic. And he's an architect and he's been studying not only ancient sites and temples, but he's been hired by governments to reconstruct cities and stuff like that to make sure the energy flow is correctly. So he's been doing this stuff for like 40, 50 years, and he's very advanced. One of the things that he talks about, besides other people, is that at one point we were left-brained. And then ancient man slowly merged over into right brain, which now we have ancient Egypt and temples all over the world, and pyramids. What that means is we were purely connected only to nature. And then for some reason, our consciousness started to bleed over into right brain just slightly. And we started to calculate our understanding of nature. And that's where you get the symbols and the structures and the buildings and the pyramids and the sound resonance chambers all over the world, not just Egypt. This is that moment where ancient man was like, I want to observe, I want to calculate nature, and I want to write about it, and I want to create a language. But still, we're dealing in a feminine principle, nature, which is symbols. We're not writing a language, we're creating nature into symbols because we understand nature through symbols, right? Our brain says, it's a cat, not like it's a cat, and I have to write it in 5 different languages. That's a different side of the brain. So all of Egypt is, in a sense of what we understand life right now, feminine, because all of it was translated through nature and the understanding of the netters. Netters means nature. NTR, nature, netters. That's the translation, ancient Egyptian translation, is that the netters being the gods and the goddesses, the pantheon that we all talk about, they're just pieces of nature that they translated into symbols. So when we go there, what happens to our brain is we return back from our logical, nothing is true, trying to calculate, figure out all this stuff, to I am, I see, I am part of, and I'm here, right? And that is feminine. So every part of Egypt, no matter how masculine the buildings and how masculine the pyramids and the Giza Plateau feels, it is all feminine. It is 100% feminine. But in ancient times, that was masculine and feminine. There wasn't a separation. It wasn't like if back in there they would say, well, this isn't feminine. This is both masculine and feminine. But we, being so far off course, we really identify it as feminine. So when you're there, the things that get activated in you is the remembrance of a different side of your brain that has not been activated for thousands and thousands of years with your ancestors. And a part of remembrance of you in another lifetime where you had connection to all those netters, those gods and goddesses, and of course, nature itself. So the symbols, no matter what symbol it is, in the way that modern day people look at the world, is feminine.
Yeah, and the universe communicates with us through symbols, and it's a multi-dimensional walls. And so, yeah, very well said. And I think like that's why what also was really cool about this trip was, first of all, it was led by divine feminine goddesses. And on this trip, we just happened to have 7 men and 13, which is the number for me of the divine feminine goddess, which is the divine mother from the void from which every single creation comes from in Egypt, which Melissa just described as, divine feminine symbolic return to the parts of your brain that have been dormant for a long time. And we literally had 13 divine feminine priestess goddesses on the trip with us, led by Melissa. And there's like an energy I feel like humanity needs to, we went so far into the left brain masculine to shift back to find our balance, right? And that was really cool. This trip was led by divine feminine goddesses, which brings like the most powerful force on the planet, really, which is that divine feminine, divine mother love. And also, like, what I really appreciated was like it was like a lightness, it's powerful, but at the same time there was like a lightness, giggling, and playfulness, and all of that. And so that really brought a beautiful element to the trip, which leads me to Maya. Like, I know like sometimes you're just like in your divine feminine having fun, and you're like, oh, I'm being told to do this, and then you start channeling this or you start channeling that. So yeah, talk to me a little bit about that medicine, about divine feminine channeling, and like, yeah, talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, what I really love about this is, and divine feminine channeling, when we're talking about it, is this moment of surrender. It's letting go of all expectations, being surrendered in the moment. And the thing I want to presence about this too is it is about frequency. It's about sound as well, allowing the sounds to come through us. And this was really interesting because I had a really profound experience actually with you, Dr. Sam, in a ceremony you were leading for a group that we had in Austin. And during that experience, we were in a space where I understood sound frequency like I never have before. And during the protocol we were doing, I remember making a sound and I could feel that sound. It was just a note, a tone coming through my body and creating a space. And once that space was created, there was a moment in that experience where suddenly it was like a room was created where information could come through. And I remember sitting up and words were coming out of my mouth. And it really was an experience that I felt like was channeling, meaning that I had no thought of what I was saying. There was no forethought of what I was saying. And the words that were coming out of my mouth, I remember thinking, wow, this is amazing. Like, I should write this down. This is incredible. So I knew that it was from a higher divine part of me or a higher divine source flowing through me. And I had that experience over and over again in Egypt. And one thing that I learned was going into this, we were instructed by Melissa to come up with our own individual frequency of our name. So this is the name without the consonants in it, just the vowels, and to create almost like a frequency or a song. So mine is I-E-O. And I remember being in the temples and just finding myself humming that. And I would go around just humming it. And as I hummed that, I could feel this channel start to open within me in this frequency. And then the different places where we had opportunities as a group or as individuals to actually tone and feel a vibrational frequency coming through. I think that is, whether it's divine feminine channeling or whether it's divine masculine channeling, whatever that is, it is about the frequency. It's about finding your frequency or the frequency that's flowing through you, creating or making a room or a space, and then allowing whatever needs to come through. And I really appreciated this, an experience I'll share with this that describes, I think, the symbiotic relationship between channeling and these sacred sites is on our last day, we were in the Great Pyramid. And it was so fantastic because the night before we had a private there. So it was just our group, the whole entire Great Pyramid. And I know, you can get that individually too, but as we were preparing for this the night before, I look out the window as we're leaving the biogeometry place where we had taken this class, and the moon was almost full, and I'm like, no way. And I looked it up, and we were going to be in the pyramid on the full moon, and I'm like, all right, so some super conscious part of me or Melissa must have planned this, because this was not a conscious planning. But when we were in that chamber, we had
it was the 12th day of May, full moon.
May
So
12th, creator
I
of
love-
code 12, on the full moon, on the 12th day of our trip in the King's Chamber, toning together as a group.
Yeah.
Yeah, no accidents for sure.
And as we did that
Nope.
toning as a group, and then
Mhm.
individually as I got to do that toning too, what I felt was there was an activation within my soul, a remembrance of who I was and the codes I carried, but there was also an activation happening in that moment in time that only the codes that I carry could bring in that moment. My experience of that was the sound coming out of my mouth. And there's no way I can describe channeling better. I could feel it resonating through my whole body. And it was like, again, this is just my experience, but there was like a green pillar coming up from the ground through my body, out my mouth, and out the top of the pyramid, a resonance into the world. And I could feel that from our group too. And that's the thing, is I think there's two components to this that's so important. Number one, and this is kind of in the Iliad, there has to be such a confidence that you are worthy as a vessel, and then such a surrendering of the ego that there is no attachment, and that there's no thought that this is coming from me. It's just coming through me. And so it was the combination of those three things, both collectively within our group and then also individually. And I know other people had an individual experience that was unique to them. But that was the channeling. It's the merging of the codes through the sound frequency, through the body, through every cell and strand of DNA at a specific time and place that has been predestined to happen, or maybe that's happening simultaneously through these different lifetimes or timelines. So, and it's so it's the combination of those two. And I will be eternally grateful for that experience, because what I learned in that experience was is that I traveled halfway around the world to receive these eternal codes to be activated in me. And what I realized is they've been in me all along. Is that I went to one of the 7 wonders of the world on the full moon on the 12th day of May to remember that I am the code. That we all are the code. And it's answering the call to be in the right time and the right place to activate that within us and to activate that remembrance. And for that, I will be eternally grateful. And just tears streaming down my face, and just so grateful that I got that experience, because it was wonderful and profound.
Drop the mic. Tears stream down your face when you find something you cannot replace. Sorry, I had to do that. Yeah, absolutely. Fuck, like that was such a beautiful riff, Maya. Like that was beautiful, and I appreciate that about your medicine, is your ability to just have your childlike nature, and it's not ego, and because you're in that childlike state, like and be receptive, and you have such a devotion to source, and to be able to channel that through when you're combining those medicines that you carry, and
Well,
that's
boba
really
does
beautiful, and
help.
it was really beautiful.
Boba does help.
Boba,
And
yeah, boba, yeah,
and
yeah.
Ball, and at the tombs.
Yeah.
And I swear there were pictures
Yeah.
of cups with little balls in them
Uh,
on some of the hieroglyphs. And I think maybe the
uh,
Egyptians had boba. I don't know. I'm just saying, just putting it out there.
yeah, it's perhaps so. And like you just said, you are the Egyptian and you like boba, so yeah, it's all perfect for sure. And I think that, like, I think like it complemented super well with Melissa's medicine. And, like, yeah, Melissa, yeah, you giggle a lot. Yeah, you're brilliant. Yes, you've a kick-ass journalist and videographer. But also, like, I think like one of the qualities that I think like not a everybody might see is your devotion to source. Like there is a devotion to source and a fierceness that you carry. Although you keep it light and we giggle and we had ecstatic dancing, all that stuff. I think like there's like such a devotion to source. I think that is beneath all that which drives you, which I feel like those people carry a special mission, and that's why I really am grateful to be able to hold this container and open this container for anybody that might feel called to join Hathor Studios. It's a mission. Melissa's carrying a mission and a vision for humanity, and it's at a perfect timing. And I think it's a very unique offering and one that you guys put so much love and thought and sacred hospitality, private trips. And I know, Melissa, you were talking behind the scenes all the time, like moment by moment, like, oh, are we going to get this private? Are we going to get this private time for the group tomorrow? Right. And you really cared about that. And like you found joy in seeing each one of us remember because of the sacred hospitality and the space that was created. So can you, Mel, tell us a little bit more? We're going to put a link to the next Egypt trip with Hathor Studios. For me, I highly recommend it. I think like this is a calling for both of you to provide these spaces for people to go to Egypt, and I think it's a unique offering. The Code 12, so we're gonna put a link to the next Hathor Studios Egypt trip in the show notes. So if you're watching this and you're like, yo, like I feel called, check that out. But also wanted to, Melissa, how do people find you, Hathor Studios, the work that you're doing? How do they sign up for the next Egypt trip?
Yes. So you can go to www.hathorstudios.com, just like the goddess,
Yeah.
HATHOR studios.com. And literally, like you scroll down past, we have a video showing
Yeah.
all of our stuff that we do, and it says sign up for Egypt trip. Click there and fill out the application. And one of us will reach out to you and start the process. Yeah, we would love to have you. Just so you know, everybody, I will be your personal segment, meaning I will make sure in the background, I'll make sure everything is done. That's what I was doing in the back
Mm.
behind the scenes, making sure stuff is done, getting us to do all the fun things that we get to do that we're not supposed to do in Egypt. And I just want to say a little joke. So I did tell the staff in Egypt that these are Americans and they have to eat every 2 hours, and
Yeah.
they provide every 2 hours. People got a snack in their room. So if you're worried about food and being
Yeah.
fed, you are well fed and taken care of. Don't worry.
Yeah, and she's not exaggerating. Like literally every time we left the room, there would be new when I returned to that room, there were new snacks and like yeah, it was amazing. Like they literally were watching every step of the way. Sacred hospitality for sure. So hathorstudios.com. We'll leave a link. Go down, click the next Egypt trip, and yeah, I don't know how else to say it. Like just to recap, like it's a special group of people coming together. Melissa and Maya do an amazing job thinking about every detail, sacred hospitality, literally. And I'm talking about like, like just biogeometry lectures with world-class, amazing spiritual teachers who like just the little things, right? And you're like literally more sunrise, private temple visitations to the Isis temple, private time with Sekhmet. They're literally trying to arrange moment by moment ways to enhance your ability to connect and to remember. And those little things go a long way. And so, like every step of the way, every day was like a spontaneous love offering for the group, which provided space for the group to come together to do what it came here to do as a group. And I'm sure that that's only gonna, get better. That was, your guys' first trip that you guys put on for us, and like literally, like I cannot highly recommend it even more. So check it out, Hathor Studios, if you're feeling called to Egypt with these two beautiful, badass goddesses. I highly recommend it. So for all film students, visionaries, spiritual seekers out there who Egypt might be calling, check out the next trip with Hathor Studios. Put a link in the show notes. Um, anything else coming through that you guys wanted to leave the listeners with? Anything we didn't cover? I'll just say for me, like it was a trip of a lifetime. I won't go into like exactly why, but like for me, I was called and I listened and I went, and it was the perfect setup for me, and I'm forever eternally grateful. So thank you, Maya. Anything last words at all coming through for you?
Yeah, I just want to say, like Dr. Sam, I call you Sam, from the bottom of my heart, like, thank you so much for answering the call to go on this trip. And I just want to honor you for who you are and the work you're doing for the world. And I'm just really, really grateful for you. And Melissa, I'm so grateful for you. I'm grateful for the work that you've put in and also for who you are and for answering this call to be able to do this. So I'm just forever grateful. Thank you so much. And yeah, just
Yeah.
leaving with a lot of love for you both.
Thank you, Maya. I see you, girl. And High Priestess, thank you for your medicine. And wouldn't have been the same. Like, literally, it's super grateful. Just every single person that was there, it made it what it was. So I received that. Thank you. Mel, any final words coming through?
Yeah, besides the spiritual stuff that we just all talked about in this call, the reason why I wanted to even do this, I don't need to. I'm making movies, but I is that I've written so many shows on ancient Egypt. I've been to Egypt a bunch of times, and I really wanted to give people an experience that was somewhere in between writing Ancient Aliens and being head of content at Gaia for 5.5 years. And like I just have like I have a wealth of knowledge, and I wanted to bring the right amount of it to each of the places so that people could absorb some new information, but also have space to absorb that information through the stones as well. So if you're into all of that stuff, if you've enjoyed some of those shows that are on Gaia, on History Channel, Discovery Channel, if you go to Hathor Studios, you'll see a lot of the shows that I've done. But if you're enjoying that kind of knowledge and you really want to go into that sector of esoteric understanding, besides Code 12 and Dr. Joe Dispenza's movie Source, there's a little bit of that too, which is pretty cool if that's what you're into, and you really want to understand how that works in some of these ancient places.
Absolutely. Yeah. And yeah, I think that's about it. Yeah. So if you guys feel called, I can't highly recommend more. Go with Mel, go with Maya, Divine Feminine. It's time to rise up. They create that beautiful, amazing sacred space. And it's fun, and like the group, and the temples and the food, and it's just a trip of a lifetime, really. So yeah, go check out Hathor Studios. Thank you, Maya Rose Rogers, High Priestess of the Most High Living God. Thank you, Melissa Tittle, visionary filmmaker, goddess, and badass, for putting together this special trip. And yeah, I'm just sending so much gratitude and love and all the good vibes of the Eternal Beloved Councils to your upcoming trips that, I very can say with all of my heart, mind, and soul, like, yo, like this is a sacred offering to humanity. So thank you for that. And I'm sure there's just going to be so many beautiful activations, remembrances for the land, for the people, through the work that you guys are doing. So thank you both for being on the show. And yeah, love you guys, all the listeners out there, and we'll see you next time. Peace. That's a
Love
wrap.
you.